and welcome to On the Red Dot with me, Otelli Edwards. Think Sembawang, and the shipyard behind me comes to mind. But it's a neighborhood with a lot more to offer, whether it's nature or history. In the final installment of our That's My Backyard series, we uncover some gems in this often overlooked neighborhood. The only house here is about 100 years old and has witnessed Sembawang's transformation from sleepy rubber plantation to bustling naval base and now residential suburb. Through all the changes, what has endured are the ties that bind the sons and daughters of Sembawang to the place they call home. The story of Sembawang is tied to its location by the sea. The Strait of Johor, separating Singapore and Malaysia, is just 1 kilometer at its narrowest. But the waters are deep and calm, making it the perfect place for the British colonial government to set up a naval base, its biggest in the Far East. The dockyard staff were housed in what's now known as black and white bungalows. Johnny Hun grew up in one of those houses. His father was a domestic worker for the British Superintendent Naval Store Officer. Now a 68-year-old grandfather, Johnny still lives in Sembawang in an HDB flat. But once in a while, he escapes the concrete jungle of his neighborhood and returns to the wide open spaces of his childhood.
This is 164 Mountain Crescent where I used to stay. This is the garage and it's not the main house. But you can see it's big enough to be somebody's house today. The main house is over there, but it's been torn down.
It's been over half a century, but Johnny still remembers those days fondly.
I make ferry with the kids. During Christmas, I've been invited to have Christmas dinner with them. When I need to play with them, I just and we meet. Behind me is the entrance to Naval Base. They call it Mata Gate. On my right is the Malay compound where I go freely with them, and there I learn Malay. Apa khabar? Khabar baik, selamat makan.
There's little trace of the former naval base in what's now Sembawang Park. Keen to preserve his memories, Johnny has sent his old photos to the Sembawang Memory Project. Organized by the Sembawang grassroots, the project has taken in stories from over 60 people, painting a vivid portrait of life in old Sembawang. Guru Sami Selvaraj has also chipped in to the Memory Project. His father used to work at the naval dockyard. He remembers playing at the hot spring near Gambas Avenue, now the only one that can be found in mainland Singapore.
After school, when I don't have much homework, I used to come here with my friends. What we do here is usually playing football most of the times. So once in a while when we kick the hard plastic balls, they go out of shape. And what we do is to throw it into the hot water and it comes back into the shape again. So these are really fun things that we do as a kid. So whenever we come here and play, we listen to the siren at 4 p.m. in the evening because that's when your dad finishes his work. And all the boys, what we do, we used to rush back home, go and wash ourselves, sit down on the study table pretending to be studying as a good boy. Sembawang people will remember that siren. It was early morning, 7 o'clock when they start work, 12 o'clock is the lunchtime, and 4 o'clock is the time that your dad finishes work. So these are the things that really every Sembawang boy, when he grew up, will remember these things.
Drinks maker FNN used to bottle the water here, selling it as Salitaris. In 1985, the government acquired the land for an air base. But the area remains open to the public. Despite the secluded location and the lack of parking space, the spring has a stream of regular visitors. This woman comes almost daily with a trolley full of containers, filling them up and lugging them home so that her family gets to shower with the spring water. Before the taps were in place, people drew the spring water from a well, but that's no longer possible. The well is now protected inside a brick enclosure. For what reason? We can only speculate. A curse written in Chinese warns vendors that their relatives will suffer horrible accidents. There were also rumors that a boy died after falling into the well.
听人家讲说，以前有人以为一个人掉下去，然后听人家讲说，发现到里面有个那个骨头。
But stories like that haven't stopped David Yeo from coming here daily from as far away as Katong. He has suffered eczema for over 40 years, but decided to take himself off steroid creams 2 years ago after learning about their side effects. The spring water is said to contain higher levels of sulfur, which could help certain skin conditions.
Well, I first heard about the Sembawang hot spring from my mother-in-law. From mid-January onwards, I've been coming here every day. Almost every day and twice a day when I can. Yeah, it has helped me. It has reduced the itch and I could sleep much better now. But the most significant one was I felt my energy was gradually increasing at a faster pace than before.
Yeah, and that's a lot of significance because he used to be just lying in bed, almost, bed-bound for a whole day. Or even if he gets out, he comes back, he's so uncomfortable. But now he's like, well, a few more hours out.
Most visitors dip their feet in pails of hot water. Some bring their own string and bed sheet to set up a makeshift bathroom. Others complement the soak with a little spanking.
给他血液循环这样好像经络会通不过没事打了就没有事了。 你有的打出来就是它浮上来就是一粒一粒一粒的，就是那个黑青一粒一粒的。
Mr. Chan, who's 58 years old, has also offered his self-styled treatment to those complaining of aches and pains.
This is what we say, we have this rheumatism, and then they try to make it up. So as it beat, it blue black already, then it comes out, and you feel comfortable.
Mr. Chan's almost daily visits to the spring over the past decade have helped him make friends out of complete strangers.
朋友来这里就很多了，不过你这里就你不用姓，我跟你讲了咯，不用知道他的名，也不用知道他的姓咯，只是要谈得来就可以了。 因为它太多了嘛，这么多，每天有不同的人，你不用去记嘛，伤脑筋，对不对？
While a community of sorts has developed at the hot spring, another group has sprung up online, bringing together those keen to rediscover Sembawang, the legendary birthplace of the Roti John.
So I understand that when they serve to the Ang Mo, they say Roti John.
Roti John, probably that's right.
A train station, a mall, and HDB flats as far as the eye can see. Sembawang is starting to look like any other housing estate in Singapore. But dotted across the area are landmarks of historical and personal significance. Take the Mata Jetty at Sembawang Park. Construction was started by the British but completed by the Japanese, a rare case of a common goal between wartime enemies. The jetty also holds fond memories for Jerome Lim, who muses about old Singapore in his award-winning blog, The Long and Winding Road.
My father used to bring me to Sembawang, so it's, mainly to go to the jetty to do fishing and crabbing. So it was a popular spot in the 70s.
Now a Sembawang resident, Jerome occasionally holds fun walks to help his friends rediscover old Singapore.
We live in a Singapore that's very fast-paced today. We've kind of forgotten how things were in the past. And I think it helps us to maybe to understand, where we did come from.
Today, Jerome is meeting some ex-residents of Sembawang for a trip down memory lane.
This is a Naval Base, old Naval Base map, 1968 map, okay?
Can block.
Sophia Abdul Rahman loved growing up in Sembawang. 3 years ago, she started a Facebook page called the Old Sembawang Naval Base Nostalgic Lane. Through it, she became friends with Kramen and Kamal.
For Sembawang, we still have the old colonial houses, which is around this area. However, this area has been developed into Sembawang HDB estate.
I used to wander around as a child, all over Naval Base as a child. Everything was like so nice and so much countryside. It was like a playground for the children.
Now we go to...
Their first stop today, to find the tree that gave Sembawang its name.
I'm going to show you what is Sembawang tree looks like. In front of us, right now, what you see is the Sembawang tree.
Yeah, I've been in this area before, but I never knew this was a Sembawang tree.
Raymond, that's a problem when there's no sign indicating that this is Sembawang tree. Okay, opposite this Sembawang tree, you can see the other end is the building. That is my former primary school. Okay, I studied here from 1971 until 1976. I'm still glad the building is still there.
The old Sembawang Primary School is now a campsite for the Boys Brigade and Girls Brigade.
This is my old primary school tuck shop where I used to eat during the recess time. And after every meal, I will squat here together with my classmate and schoolmate. I will start to brush teeth together with a tumbler and a toothbrush. That was the memories. And as you can see at the end there, beyond there is a stage. I remember in 1973, I walked up on that stage and received a prize for being first in class. That was in primary 3.
A short walk along the beach brings us to the last kampong mosque in Singapore. The kampongs around it were cleared for redevelopment beginning in the 80s. But the mosque was saved from demolition after repeated appeals since the 70s.
Mosque is a very sentimental value for all the 6 kampong people here. So every time Hari Raya or Friday, you can see all the people from the 6 kampong come back to the mosque and meet each others and telling all the old stories. And the bill also by kampong people is from the kampong people contribution, 50 cents per week. Probably per month, I remember that one. And then their own hand can bill. All together, they call it gotong royong. So kampung gotong royong mean that voluntary groups lah. Every weekends, Saturday, Sunday, they come and work in this mosque, build about 6 to 7 months to get the mosque ready. That's a unique about the mosque.
Those days, gotong royong was very common, no? Because I remember a lot of these roads also was gotong royong.
The mosque also has a sizable backyard, allowing women to carry on the practice of bearing the placenta after childbirth.
These kampung peoples, when they got a baby, then they collect the placenta at the hospital because Muslims believe that the placenta need to be buried.
I'm very surprised that they just come and do it.
The kampung spirit is still with them. They still come back with the old traditional way of doing things.
A nostalgic walk in Sembawang would not be complete without a visit to the row of shop houses previously known as the Strip. From the 50s to the 70s, the entire stretch was made up of bars and pubs catering to sailors. Some pubs remain, but the crowds are gone. The area was also home to many eateries. Roti John is said to have originated here.
Those days, the naval sailors, they are known as Johns. Those days, they come and ask for some sandwiches. So, you know, all these mama all don't know about sandwiches. So they just make their own version. And we all know Roti John, they have minced meat, beaten eggs, and then they put it on a griddle, and then they slice it, and then they give them with the cucumber and tomato ketchup. Because Johns don't take chili sauce, like Singaporean. They take tomato sauce. So it became Roti John, and it became very famous, you know.
So I understand that when they serve to the Angmo, they say, Roti John.
Roti John. Probably that's right.
It's memories like these that have drawn over 1,000 members to Sophia's Facebook group, allowing her to reconnect with her old neighbors.
Somebody that I didn't think that I would meet after like 30, 40 years, you know. They actually remember me more how I look and how I behaved when I was small.
But even as Sophia and her friends savor the nostalgia of what's left from the old days, a new Sembawang is taking shape, one that may no longer be tied to its shipyard. Sembawang's changing face is reflected in the mix of shops along Sembawang Road. But some old shops have remained for decades. One of these institutions is Cheap John's, run by Suresh Balani. His father started a small department store in the 50s, catering to the shiploads of sailors at Sembawang.
They used to walk down to the place, the shop's called the Strip. So they used to buy Chinawares, bed sheets, cameras, watches, and some bicycles at times, and bring back, because those days exchange rate was much favorable for them. Because the products we sell was reasonably cheap, and the sailors wanted something that they can remember that our shop name by. So instead of calling Muthu or Kumar and all that, they're very familiar with John or Charlie. And that's why they named us Cheap John's.
Suresh learned to repair bicycles from a shop in the neighborhood. When he took over Cheap John's, he decided to specialize in selling and repairing bicycles.
Basically, they were the soldiers who were here in the 60s. They kept us going. And then was the Anzac forces when the British left. Then after which this area got developed with HDB estates and all that. And now the park connectors has improved on our business so much more better.
Park connectors link Sembawang to nearby towns like Yishun and Woodlands. There are plans to eventually form a round island route, bringing more people to the natural sandy beach in Sembawang, a rare find in Singapore. When the government announced plans to reclaim the beach in 2003, residents fought to keep it the way it was. One of them was Margie Hall. She's from Britain, but has lived in Sembawang for over 20 years.
I enjoy living here because of all the nature in the area, the houses, the layout of the roads, the way they curve, the gardens, we have nice gardens, and also the history of the area. For instance, just at the moment, I'm trying to work out whether this house or that house is the house that I have information about from 1940. I know that who was living in this house and the adjoining houses in 1940. I've got letters from the captain of the dockyard in this area, but I don't know which house was number 18 because the numbering has changed. Also, what's interesting is that in those days the brickwork was exposed, so that although everybody's got this great thing about these houses being black and white, the reality is when they were built, all the brickwork was exposed, so they were basically red houses with just a little bit of the kind of mock Tudor but black and white on them. So more things to find out every time I get new photographs one way or another from people.
Over the years, Margie has amassed a wealth of information about the area through former residents and her own research.
Okay, for instance, this building here is now being converted into a residence, but actually it was a theatre built by the Japanese when the Japanese were here for the Japanese occupation. The British found it sort of built when they got back in 1945, and so they carried on using it as a theatre. So, for instance, some of the people who used to live in this area sent me back and took part in the performances and things, sent me back this program from Naval Base Theatre Club, pantomime in 1966.
Like many Sembawang residents, Margie enjoys the peace and quiet in the area. But that could soon change. Large tracts of land have been cleared for HDB housing. Land authorities have rezoned the shipyard area, suggesting new opportunities for waterfront living. Already, seafront bungalows are popping up on the eastern side of Sembawang Beach.
Okay, I can recall that Sentosa is a seafront living, but again, the prices here is only a fraction of Sentosa. Sembawang is an out-and-coming area. Lately, government have put in a lot of infrastructure in this area, so we'll make this area more accessible. This area is very quiet and peaceful. It also have the kampong lifestyle spirit.
That kampong spirit is still very much alive. D. Tokijan was one of many national football stars to have grown up in Sembawang. Others include Kwa Kim Song and V. Sundramuthi. Tokijan now lives in Yishun. But every Sunday, he coaches these boys from Sembawang for free.
By doing this, yeah, I'm giving back something to Sembawang. I hope so they would accept me to guide them, all these kids, to become better footballer. And I hope to see all my old kampung friends and or see them and their kids playing soccer, so I can give something to their kids.
The Sembawang Youth Football Academy was put together by Abdul Wahab, a Sembawang resident. Each boy pays just $2 per session to cover the costs of buying equipment and competition expenses.
Most of the coaches here are volunteer, all from Sembawang. Some of them with their son playing football, but some of them are not. They want to do community service. So they just say, I want to follow you to do some community service. Okay, this is the right place. Community service, enjoy your Sunday, and then we slowly educate these boys to play good football.
There's something about Sembawang that inspires love from those who live there. For some, it's a natural beauty. Or her colourful history. For others, it's the memories they share of growing up at a time when life was simpler. As the tides of change roll in, each new generation will test new ground, make new discoveries, and perhaps fall in love with Sembawang all over again.
One roti john, please. And that wraps up our series on the neighborhoods of Singapore. That's my backyard. Now, if you had missed any of the 7 episodes in the series, you can watch them at these websites. And do let us know on our Facebook page what you thought of the series and if we should bring it back again. Next week, we bring you a special episode on dealing with trauma. Given the attention on flight MH370, we speak to those involved in previous air crashes and those who have lost loved ones to such accidents. What did they do to pull through their darkest days? Check out our Facebook page in the coming days for more details. I'm Otelia Edwards. We'll see you again real soon.